Boy, we got out of Durham with our lives. Maybe as much as we, didn't deserve to lose that game to Ohio State. The luck of the Irish was sure with us when we played the Duke Blue Devils the other night. First of all, congratulations to Notre Dame. Anytime you get a victory on the road against a top 25 team, the 17th ranked Blue Devils have had an excellent season so far. Horrible to see what happened to Riley Leonard at the end of the game. I thought it was a real class move what Sam Hartman did, walking up and checking on him. But that Blue Devils team has beaten Clemson this year. I mean, they're a real football team. Their left tackle didn't look like he played that game, but Barton, he's going to be possibly a first-round NFL draft pick. So this is a real team with real players. It's not your daddy's Duke Blue Devils team, and they took us to the limit. Notre Dame did not get their running game started. They struggled a little bit on defense, stopping the run at times. So we definitely need to shore up some things, but we're going to talk a little bit about that. And as you guys can tell from the title of the video, I'm doing something that they say you should never do, and I'm looking ahead because even after we won that game, of course, I check out all the dirt sheets, if you want to call it that, and look at all the different topics on the different sites. And everybody still seems to think, well, there's not a path for Notre Dame to the college football playoff. Well, that's just not true. Just for example, the ESPN playoff predictor gives Notre Dame a 23% chance to make the college football playoff as long as they go undefeated the rest of the way. And by the way, that same playoff predictor has Notre Dame favored in every single one of those games. I think the lowest percentage chance we have of winning is 54%, and that is that game on the road against Clemson. Even though they're unranked, they're still Clemson, and they have a lot of NFL players on that team. And Dabo Swinney is difficult to beat in Clemson. So I think they actually have like a 64% chance to win at home against USC. And that has nothing to do with Caleb Williams. I fully expect that everyone believes Caleb Williams is going to put up 25 or 30 points against the Irish. I just don't think anybody in the nation has a ton of respect for the defense of USC. So we'll see how all those games turn out. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through some of the big games that's left from weeks 6 all the way through 13. And we'll talk about what those games mean, because a lot of the teams that are in front of Notre Dame right now have to play each other. And Notre Dame may have the best loss in the nation. I'll talk to you why we need Ohio State to go undefeated from here, and also why Florida State and Texas might be the thorns in our side of getting into that college football playoff. But let's start out with the Duke game. A little bit of recap here. Like I said, good win on the road against the 17th ranked Blue Devils. Definitely had some luck of the Irish involved. I tell you what, man, that was a pure moxie play by Sam Hartman at the end, picking up the 4th and long. That took guts, or kahunas, as they say. Some other outstanding news next week as we play the number 25 ranked Louisville Cardinals. We get Jaden Thomas back. We get Jaden Greathouse back. And for the first time this year, we get to see Eli Raridan, another one of those tight ends. I tell you what, folks, I had my doubts after losing Michael Mayer, but after watching how Mitchell Evans performed the other night, we have another stud in the tight end room. And oh, by the way, the second guy, his backup, already has 4 touchdown receptions this year. Eli Raridan, the third tight end, has some physical freakishness to him that I think all of you are going to be impressed with. So we get 2 enormous weapons back in our receiving room, probably our top 2 receivers right now. Well, you could argue that. I mean, Merriweather and Tyree have definitely picked it up, and Rico Flores is a very nice freshman, but Jaden Greathouse is definitely the freshman that they are all talking about, and Jaden Thomas may be our best and most experienced receiver all around. So getting them back is going to be huge for the passing game as well as the running game, because when you have that many threats at receiver, you can't put 7 and 8 in the box. So that's just the way that goes. All right. Let's touch on some things that I think the Irish need to work on moving forward, just based off that Duke game. They need to figure out the running game a lot faster than the last few minutes of the fourth quarter. I mean, that was an amazing run by our big bowling ball of a running back, Audric Estime, to basically ice the game for us. But if you notice, it was really difficult to run the ball And there's too many NFL guys on Notre Dame's offensive line to get pushed around by a Duke defensive line. I just thought that we needed to get that going a lot faster. Hopefully Marcus Freeman and the members of the offensive coaching staff, Gerard Parker, they all get involved and figure out how we can get this offensive line going quite a bit faster. Missing 3 out of 4 weapons in the receiving room, if you count Deion Colsey, that really hurt. We need to get healthy, and it looks like we are. Now, Matt Salerno and Deion Colsey aren't going to be back for several weeks yet. Hopefully we get them back before the end of the regular season, and if we do make a college football playoff run, we'll have them for that. I'm seriously starting to question Gerard Parker's play calling. Consistently running into 8-man fronts just isn't working. It's not wise. We need to change it up. We need to get more creative, and you have to do that when you're missing people. When you are missing big parts of your offense, you have to figure out ways to get the ball in the hands of your playmakers, but you have to be smart about it because Duke had everybody up on the line, and I didn't see as much play action as I would have liked to. I didn't see as much motion as I would have liked to. I get it. The 3 receivers we were using were gassed by the end of the game, but we definitely need to get that running game started faster, and the play calling needs to improve on the offensive side of the ball. As I talked about before, Mitchell Evans is a freak. He is an outstanding tight end. He is the next great Notre Dame tight end, I predict, and I think he is going to have a heck of a career in South Bend. Also, having a 24-year-old quarterback with ice water in his veins is the only reason Notre Dame picked up the 4th and 16. He's a class act. He's an adult in the room. More moxie than any quarterback I've seen at Notre Dame in years. I mean, we're talking going all the way back to maybe Brady Quinn or even before that. Last but not least, Notre Dame picked up a tough game on the road in a hostile environment against the number 17th ranked team in the country, missing a whole slew of weapons. And they always say good teams find a way to win. And Notre Dame found a way to win. It wasn't pretty. Yeah, there was some luck involved. It took a gutsy play by a quarterback that's older than almost anybody in all of college football. But Notre Dame pulled it off. And now they're on to the Louisville Cardinals next week. So not only that, for you Vegas guys, they covered the spread too. 5.5. Notre Dame won by a touchdown. So there you go. You could maybe even make a little coin off of that game. So let's talk about Notre Dame in the college football playoff. Georgia, Michigan, Texas, Ohio State, Florida State, Penn State, Washington, Oregon, and USC are the 9 teams ahead of Notre Dame. By Notre Dame beating Duke on the road, a ranked team, they bumped up 1 position. They went from 11th to 10th, which the way Notre Dame won, I'm surprised they even moved up. But they did win, and they had that. So, like I talked about earlier, Florida State and Texas are going to be our biggest problems. The main reason is because Florida State and Texas don't have a ton of what you'd call difficult road games. Now, we're going to start talking about each week. Now, I am going to tell you, I'm not going to give Notre Dame any breaks. Some of this is because all of these teams end up playing each other at some point, and somebody has to lose. And remember, all of this is also predicated on Notre Dame not losing again and going 11-1. But you're going to see just through attrition, a lot of teams are going to drop behind the Irish as long as the Irish keep their foot on the gas and keep winning games. So the first week, week 6, Notre Dame goes into week 6, ranked 10th. They have to play at 25 Louisville, expecting them to win. Okay, the other big game that week that you want to keep an eye on, the number 12 Oklahoma Sooners go into Texas to face the Texas Longhorns at number 3 in the Red River rivalry. Now, I do think Texas is going to win that game. It's on their home field, but that is always, always a difficult game. So that would be huge for Notre Dame if Texas ended up losing to Oklahoma. Now, I don't necessarily know if they would drop behind Notre Dame. But depending on the type of loss Texas has, which again means you'd want to see Oklahoma blow out Texas on the road, which again, I don't think it's going to happen. I don't even think Oklahoma is going to win. But as I said, Notre Dame may have the best loss this entire year to Ohio State, lost by 1 second to a team who's already ranked to go into the college football playoff. All right, let's go to week 7. Here is where I think Notre Dame picks up 2 spots. Notre Dame hosts USC. We're going to count that as a victory. And number 8, Oregon plays at number 7, Washington. Washington has looked extremely good this year. And I'm going to choose Washington. Both of those teams are ahead of Notre Dame, so it really doesn't matter which one wins. I just think Washington's going to win. So that would leapfrog Notre Dame over USC and Oregon. They would now be the 8th ranked team in the nation. Let's go to week 8. Week 8, you have number 6 Penn State at number 4 Ohio State. I'm calling it for Ohio State. I think it's really difficult to go into Columbus and steal a victory, and I think that Ohio State is going to hold off Penn State. You have another big game, but depending on the availability of Riley Leonard, and of course, it's not at Duke, it's at Florida State. You have number 19 Duke playing at Florida State. Obviously, we'd like to see Duke upset Florida State, considering we beat Duke. I think that's going to be near impossible if Riley Leonard can't play, but we'll have to see what his availability is. But just by Penn State losing at number 6, that's going to bump Notre Dame up to number 7. Because if Penn State loses at Ohio State, I truly believe that they'll drop behind Notre Dame. So that would make Notre Dame the 7th ranked team. Then in week 9, you have 3 games that all matter. I don't think it's going to allow Notre Dame to move up any spots. You have number 8 Oregon at 18 Utah. You have number 1 Georgia at Florida. That's a huge rivalry game. Georgia and Florida, no matter where they play it at, it's always a huge rivalry game. Of course, we'd love to see Florida upset Georgia. I just don't think it's going to happen. And Oregon at Utah may not mean anything at that point because Notre Dame may already be ahead of Oregon. So Notre Dame would remain ranked 7th. Going into the next week, week 10, this is where it starts getting interesting. The last 4 weeks this season really start getting crazy. Week 10, you have number 7 Washington at number 9 USC. You have number 8 Notre Dame at Clemson. Now, hypothetically, Notre Dame is 6th, which would mean Washington is ahead of them at somewhere at 4 or 5. But Washington at USC, that game's in Southern Cal, folks. I think Lincoln Riley and Caleb Williams beat the Washington Huskies. Winning on the road in college football is difficult, especially if you're dealing with a really talented team and their fans are into it. It is tough to win on the road. And I think USC knocks off Washington, which now bumps Notre Dame up to 6th. Like I said, a lot of this stuff's just going to happen through attrition because all these teams have to play each other. Week 11 is interesting. Notre Dame has a bye that week, and I don't know that Notre Dame moves up any spots, but listen to the slate of games. Number 2, Michigan at number 6, Penn State. Number 9, USC at number 8, Oregon. Number 18, Utah, who won the Pac-12 last year, at number 7, Washington. Number 17, Miami Hurricanes at number 5, Florida State. Again, a big game, but it's at Florida State. And then number 3, Texas at TCU. TCU obviously hasn't had the greatest season, but you get to that time of the year, and if TCU believes that they can play spoiler against Texas, again, winning on the road can be difficult. I don't know if anything happens, if any team gets upset that week. For the purposes of this episode, I'm going to say no one does. We're going to go with the favorites. I'm not going to give Notre Dame, any extra push up. And we're going to leave Notre Dame at number 6. As long as Notre Dame keeps winning, they should be at number 6 in the nation by the end of week 10. Also, by the end of week 11, I think they'll still be at number 6. Week 12, again, is interesting. Number 1, Georgia, on the road at number 22, Tennessee. You have number 7, Washington at number 15, Oregon State. That game, again, may not matter because I think Washington's probably going to lose at USC. But if they don't, they then have to go 2 weeks later into Oregon State and beat them on the road. So Washington's got some tough games this year. And then, of course, Wake Forest at currently number 10 Notre Dame, but by that time, I believe it'll be number 6 Notre Dame. I don't think Notre Dame moves up necessarily that week. The last week of the regular season, week number 13, that's the tricky one. That's the one that you could really see some movement. Notre Dame, of course, has to play at Stanford. We all expect Notre Dame to take care of business. Week 13, you have number 5 Florida State at Florida. It's in the swamp, which is still a difficult place to go in and win. I know the 3-2 Florida Gators right now are not ranked. I think they will be by week 13. They're too talented. There's too many NFL players on that Florida Gators team for them not to be in the top 25 by the beginning of week 13. And that game could be a very big test, because I'm going to go ahead and mark it as a loss for Florida State. Florida State is an excellent team, but they do have some chinks in the armor. And I think that Florida can expose them. Those two teams know each other well. It's always a hard-fought game, and I think Florida is going to upset the Seminoles. Last but not least, and this is much like a Florida and a Texas loss, this is the game that we kind of need to happen. Number 4, Ohio State at number 2, Michigan. Michigan has won the last 2 years in a row. Ryan Day feels like his job may be on the line if he gets beat by Michigan 3 years in a row. If there's a team that could beat Michigan, judging from what I saw myself a couple weeks ago, I definitely think that McCord has come into his own as a quarterback. And, of course, Harrison and Egbuka, I don't think there are 2 better wide receivers in all of college football. So it's going to be interesting to see how that Ohio State-Michigan matchup shapes up and who's got injuries at this time of the year. But what I hope to have done for all of you is show you, and let's get right to the point. If Florida State and Michigan both lose that week, that will probably put Notre Dame into the number 4 spot. Number 5 at least if one of the 2 of them lose, and then you still have the conference championships left. So this season is not completely over for Notre Dame when it comes to the college football playoff. If things go like I'm crossing my fingers for them to go, Georgia, Texas, Ohio State, and Notre Dame would be your 4 teams in the college football playoff. Obviously, all Notre Dame homers hope that it works out the same way that I said it here. But there is an actual pathway. And ESPN thinks that there's basically what amounts to about a 25% chance, a 1 in 4 chance of this actually shaping up this way, as long as Notre Dame takes care of business. Now, sure, we may need one of these teams to lose at home, or we may need them to get beaten by a team that's lower than them in the rankings, but there's a lot of really big games coming up. Not just Ohio State, Michigan. Like I said, you've got Washington and USC, and you've got Penn State and Ohio State, and you've got Miami and Florida State. You've got Oregon and Washington. You've got USC and Notre Dame. I mean, all of these games are just enormous, and they have a ton to do with the CFP. So, folks, do not give up hope. Have faith. Make sure that you tune in to us every single episode. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, share the video, comment, let us know how we're doing. Go Irish, and we will see you next time.